They didn't run bad hotels. That's the part nobody tells you. The 12 hotels in this video weren't dirty. They weren't hated. Some had Michelin-recommended kitchens. Some had 4-poster beds and 90 years of history and 5-star reviews stacked to the ceiling. One of them was, genuinely, one of the most beautiful buildings in Scotland. And every single one of them is now dead. Boarded up, sold off, liquidated, handed to administrators who counted the debts and switched off the lights. Here's what should terrify anyone who owns a small hotel. They all died in the same few years from the same headlines: energy bills, national insurance, business rates, a cost of living squeeze that thinned the crowds. That was the weather. Every hotel in Britain stood in that same storm. Most of them survived it. So the storm isn't the story, the storm is the excuse. Because a hotel doesn't die from a bad year, a healthy hotel eats a bad year for breakfast. A hotel dies from a decision made 3, 5, 10 years earlier, a decision that quietly removed its ability to survive a bad year at all. The recession didn't kill these hotels, it just pulled the trigger. The owners had loaded the gun themselves, long before. This is the autopsy of 12 dead British hotels. 7 ways a good hotel kills itself. And if you own one, at least one of these 7 is already in your building right now. Chapter 1. The Peak-Season Mirage. Here's how the smartest, most confident hotel owners die. They don't overpay for a wreck, they buy or build something good. They look at a strong summer, a booked-out August, a spreadsheet glowing green at 80–90% occupancy, and they borrow against that. The renovation, the spa, the extension, the purchase price, all financed on the number the hotel hits at its best. And that's the mirage. Because a hotel doesn't live at its best, it lives at its average. Look at the Dunellistair Hotel Suites in Perthshire, a 5-star 32-bedroom landmark in the Highlands. Administrators were called in over debts north of £4 million, with the collapse blamed on low occupancy and a shortage of staff. 32 rooms, £4 million of debt. Do that maths on a napkin and you can see the trap. The debt was sized for a hotel that was always full. The real hotel wasn't. Then there's Miskin Manor, a 42-bedroom country house hotel near Cardiff. In October 2023, its operating company went into administration citing, in the flattest possible language, cash flow pressures, and made 27 of its 63 staff redundant almost overnight. Cash flow pressures is the polite phrase for the same disease. The money coming in stopped covering the money that had to go out, and there was no cushion between the two. So here's the number that would have saved both of them. Take your loan, your fixed costs, your everything that must be paid. Now don't test it against your best quarter. Test it against your worst one. Model the January when it snows and nobody comes. If the business drowns at 50% occupancy, you don't own a hotel. You own a bet that summer lasts forever. Survival score, both 2 out of 10. Profitable on paper, insolvent in reality. And the gap between those two things was a loan. The lesson is cold and simple. Never carry debt your worst season can't pay. Peak occupancy is a feeling. Your average occupancy is the truth. Borrow against the truth, but over-leverage is the loud way to die. The next one is quieter, and it starts with a decision that looks, on the surface, like investing in your business. Every hotelier eventually looks around and thinks, this place is tired. Let's do it up. Bigger rooms, new restaurant, modernize the lot. It is the most reasonable idea in the world. And it is how the Quayside Hotel in Brixham died. The Quayside was a Devon seafront hotel that decided, at the end of 2022, to close for a major refurbishment. Top to bottom, dining room, bedrooms, the works. The plan was to go dark, rebuild, and reopen better. 2 years later, the refurbishment was still well underway, and then the company behind it went into administration. The hotel never reopened. Not once. It went dark for a renovation and simply never came back on. Here's the mechanism, because it's a killer and almost nobody sees it coming. The day you close for a full renovation, 2 things happen at once. Your revenue drops to 0. And your costs, the mortgage, the rates, the insurance, the loan for the renovation itself, keep marching. You've built a machine that only burns money and can't make any. Every week the builders overrun, that machine runs hotter. Renovations always overrun. Costs rise, supply chains slip, one bad discovery behind a wall and your timeline doubles. Now you're bleeding cash with no tap to turn back on. A big chain can absorb that. It's got 200 other hotels feeding the account. A single independent has nothing feeding it but the hotel you just switched off. So here's the fix, and it's the opposite of what feels ambitious. Never go fully dark. Renovate in phases, a floor at a time, the off-season only, the restaurant while the rooms still sell. Keep some revenue flowing through the whole project, because the revenue is the only thing keeping you alive while the dust settles. The grand total reset refurbishment is a luxury only a company with other income can afford. Survival score, 1 out of 10. The Quayside didn't fail at running a hotel. It failed by choosing, for the best of reasons, to stop running one. That's 2 ways to die with money problems. But the next chapter is stranger, because these owners had the cash, had the vision, had the talent, and that was the problem. Let me tell you about the most beautiful hotel in this video. Both House, a Grade A listed Georgian mansion near Nairn in the Scottish Highlands. For around 30 years it was a quiet, beloved, family-run country house hotel. 9 bedrooms, a Michelin-recommended kitchen, 35 acres of walled garden. A jewel. In 2022, it was bought by 2 genuinely talented people, an artist and an architect, with a big, beautiful vision. And within about 2.5 years, it was in liquidation, with net liabilities of over £880,000. What happened? Not a lack of ambition. Too much of it, pointed in too many directions. They didn't just run the hotel, they ran a high-end tasting menu restaurant and a casual wood-fired cafe. They built writing studios and painting studios and a recording studio in the grounds. Every one of those is a separate business, with separate costs, separate staff, separate ways to fail, bolted onto a 9-bedroom hotel that had to pay for all of it. And here's the tell, the quiet line in the reporting that says everything. Even while it was popular with visitors, the manager admitted the business was struggling to connect with locals, that people aren't sure what is going on. They'd taken a thing the community understood and loved and turned it into something the community no longer recognized. They chased a new guest and lost the old one. You see the exact same shape in Wales at Caer Beris Manor in Builth Wells, a 21-bedroom family-run manor hotel that even featured on the Hotel Inspector. In the middle of the cost crisis, they opened a flagship restaurant, a whole new venture, a whole new cost base, and shut it within a year. Months later, on the 31st of December 2022, the hotel itself closed for good, the owners citing utility and supplier costs almost tripling. The restaurant didn't cause the closure on its own, but you do not add a second business the exact moment your first one is fighting for its life. This is the Reinvention Trap, and it hunts the talented specifically. Master your core hotel before you bolt a second business onto it. Every new venture is not a new income stream, it's a new risk stream, and it spends the one hotel's cash to feed all of them. And whatever you do, don't win a new audience by abandoning the one that already pays your bills. Survival score, 3 out of 10 each. These weren't lazy operators, they were visionaries who forgot that a hotel has to survive being a hotel first. Now, those first 3 chapters were all single hotels making single mistakes. The next one is bigger, because sometimes the fatal decision isn't made in your hotel at all. It's made 200 miles away by the company that owns you. 2 of the 12 hotels in this video sat in the same picture postcard town, Stow-on-the-Wold in the Cotswolds. The Grapevine, 22 rooms. The Royalist, 14. 2 lovely, established, genuinely small hotels. Neither of them, as far as the guests could tell, was failing, and both were dragged into administration anyway, because the group that owned them collapsed and took them down with it. This is the trap of growth. A successful independent buys a second hotel, then a third. Each one financed partly on the back of the others, cross-guaranteed, cross-collateralized, all the debts holding hands. And for a while it feels like an empire. But you've quietly wired the whole thing together so that the weakest property in the group can now sink the strongest. A good hotel with loyal guests and a full book can be perfectly healthy and still die. Not for anything it did, but because it was chained to something that wasn't. And this is the cruelest death in the whole video, because there is nothing the Grapevine or the Royalist could have done differently as hotels. They were run well, they filled rooms. Their fate was decided one rung up the ladder in a boardroom by a growth plan that outran its own cash. So if you ever grow past one hotel, here's the rule the empire builders forget. Every new property must stand on its own 2 feet. It funds itself, it survives on its own, and it is ring-fenced, so that if it fails alone. The moment your good hotel is guaranteeing your risky one, you don't own two hotels. You own one bomb with two fuses. Survival score, the Grapevine and the Royalist, 5 out of 10. And that's the tragedy. As standalone hotels, they might have scored 8. They died for a decision made above their heads. That's 4 ways down. But I've been dancing around the one factor sitting underneath all of them, the slow leak that turns a survivable bad year into a fatal one. So let's talk about the buffer, and the tax you're probably paying that quietly eats it. Here's the difference between a hotel that survives a bad year and one that dies in it. It isn't luck. It's a cushion. The Marlborough Hotel in Llandudno, 40 bedrooms on the North Wales coast, bought by its owners back in 2007, closed its doors in January 2024. The reason given, a long grind of rising costs and then a wave of cancellations it simply couldn't absorb. That's the whole mechanism in one sentence. Costs crept up, margins thinned to paper, and when a single bad run of cancellations hit, there was no reserve left to ride it out. And if you want to see exactly how thin that reserve can get, look at Lew Trenchard Manor in Devon, a 13-bedroom country house dating back to the 1600s, run by the Murray family for over 30 years. When it was wound up in April 2024, the debts were over £400,000. But here is the number that should stop you cold. The day it closed, the business had £23,700 left in the bank. That's it. That's the entire cash cushion standing between a 30-year-old hotel and the end. Not a disaster fund. Barely a fortnight of bills. A cushion is boring. It is the least glamorous thing in hospitality. It is money that just sits there, doing nothing, while you're tempted every single month to spend it on something that would make the hotel nicer. And it is the only reason some hotels are still open. The rule: hold 2 to 3 months of your fixed costs in cash, untouched, and watch your labor and energy as a percentage of revenue every month, not once a year when the accountant tells you it's already too late. But here's what's quietly draining that cushion before you even start. And it's the part that makes me angry on your behalf: the silent tax. The online travel agents, Booking.com, Expedia, the ones every independent feels chained to, they take a commission on each booking, and for independent hotels that runs anywhere from 15 to 30%. Let me make that real. A 20-room hotel, rooms at £150, filling those rooms mostly through the platforms. That is well over £150,000 a year, potentially past £250,000, handed straight to the middleman. For a lot of these dead hotels, that number was the gap between profit and administration. They didn't have a demand problem. They had a margin problem, and they were paying it to a website. A direct booking, through your own site, your own Google listing, your own returning guests, costs you around 4%. 4 versus up to 30. Every single booking you move off the platform and into your own hands is very nearly pure margin. That is where the buffer comes from. Survival score across this chapter, 2 and 3 out of 10. Not because they couldn't fill rooms, but because they let the margin on every room they filled leak away and kept nothing back for the day it rained. There are 2 ways left to die in this video, and they're the saddest, because in neither one is there a villain at all, just arithmetic and time. Some hotels don't collapse, they just reach the end of the people willing to carry them. Overwater Hall, a 200-year-old country hotel in the Lake District, run by its owners for over 3 decades, is closing. And when it went to market, buyers hesitated for a brutally practical reason. It had too few bedrooms. Sit with that. A beautiful, well-run, historic hotel, and its fatal flaw was arithmetic. Below a certain number of rooms, the fixed costs, the staff you need, the heating, the rates, the insurance, eat the entire margin, no matter how full you are. You can sell out every night and still not clear the overhead. That's the subscale trap, and it's invisible until the day you try to sell and discover nobody wants the maths. And then there's the quietest death of all. The Expanse Hotel in Bridlington, a 44-bedroom seafront hotel built in 1937 by Edmund Cooper Briggs and run by 4 generations of the same family ever since. Nearly 90 years. And in early 2025, on difficult trading conditions, it closed. 4 generations and then none. Across Britain right now, that same story is repeating in 1,000 family hotels. The founders are exhausted, the building needs money it hasn't got, And the next generation has looked at the 18-hour days and the thin margins and said gently, no, there's no scandal here, just a family that ran a hotel until there was no one left to run it and no plan for the day that arrived. The lesson is unsentimental. If you're under scale, you must fix the maths. Add rooms, strip fixed costs to the bone, or push your nightly rate high enough to carry the overhead, because charm doesn't pay a heating bill. And if you're a family business, plan the succession or plan the sale while the hotel is still healthy and worth something. A hotel sold at its peak is a legacy and a pension. A hotel clung to through the decline is just a slow, sad loss. The best time to plan your exit is years before you need one. Survival score, over water, 4 out of 10. The Expanse, a heartbreaking 6, a good hotel that simply ran out of family. There's one killer left, and it's the one that doesn't wait for a bad year at all. It's been growing in the walls the whole time. Every pound you don't spend on the boiler this year feels like a pound of profit. It isn't. It's a loan from your future self at a brutal rate of interest. And one day, the bill comes due all at once. In July 2025, council officers walked into the Canasta Hotel, a 31-bedroom seafront hotel in Blackpool, 10 of its rooms with an unbroken view of the Irish Sea. And they could smell gas. They called the gas network, who confirmed a leak and cut off the supply. No working gas, no hot water, inadequate emergency lighting. The council served a prohibition notice on the spot and shut the hotel down. Notice what did not kill the Canasta, not the economy, not the online travel agents, not a bad summer. It was closed because the building itself had been allowed to decay past the point of safety. And the moment a regulator saw it, the hotel was finished that same afternoon. This is deferred maintenance, and it's the most seductive killer of all, because skipping the repair is invisible right up until it's fatal. The roof you didn't fix, the wiring you didn't rewire, the boiler you nursed one more winter. None of it shows on this month's accounts. It shows on the day the inspector arrives. The fix is the least exciting sentence in this entire video, and maybe the most important: budget for the building. Put aside a fixed percentage of revenue every year, the pros call it a reserve for replacement, and actually spend it on the boring, invisible bones of the place. A hotel is not just a business, it's a building, and the building is always, quietly, trying to fall down. Pay it a little every year, or pay it everything at once. Survival score, 2 out of 10. A hotel with a sea view in every other room, closed not by the market, but by a bill it had been dodging for years. So, 12 dead British hotels, and here's the autopsy verdict, the thing that connects every single one of them. Not one of them was murdered by the economy. Look back down the line: over-leverage, the Renovation Black Hole, the Reinvention Trap, the empire that ate itself, the buffer that wasn't, the last generation, the rot in the walls, 7 causes of death, and every one of them was a decision made in calmer times that quietly stripped away the hotel's ability to survive a bad year. The storm didn't pick them at random. It picked the ones already standing on one leg. That's the uncomfortable part, and it's also the hopeful one. Because a storm you can't control, a decision you can. The economy is weather. Your balance sheet is a choice. Every fix in this video: borrow against your worst season, renovate in phases, master one business before adding a second, ring-fence every property, hold a cushion, own your bookings, plan your exit, feed the building. Every one of them is something you can do on a Tuesday afternoon, long before the storm ever arrives. So here's the question I can't answer for you, the one that decides whether your hotel is number 13 or the one that's still standing in 20 years. Of those 7 killers, which one is already in your building? Because it's in there, and the owners of these 12 all thought it wasn't. If you want to see the other side of this, a small hotel that was dying and clawed its way back with one decision, watch this boutique hotel was dying. One change doubled its bookings. It's the resurrection to this autopsy. Because every empty room tells a story. Make sure yours isn't this one. Check your books, then check out.